The summer holidays are here, and if you're thinking of driving your EV through France, you're probably wondering, will I be able to charge? Will the stations be too busy, especially at peak times? We're going to try and answer that question today with a real-life data feed from EV charger availability, and we're also going to discuss whether it still makes sense to get the Ionity subscription because that gives you incredibly low electricity cost when you travel. For context, 3 years ago, on our travels going south, I did get caught in a queue at an Ionity station near Paris on Les Grands Départs, and that was not great. And then on a similar journey 2 years ago, we also had one of the stops on the Plateau de Langres, which is kind of the eastern region, and we had a similar issue. But hey, with the Ioniq 28, you're kind of a bunny hopper, and that was a bit of a mandated stop. But I've now recharged about 150 times on DC chargers from nearly 70,000 kilometers of driving electric, and I can count on one hand the number of times we had to wait that much. Now, of course, we've also graduated into a grown-up car, so to speak, the Kona EV. It has longer range, it has better planning tools, and we've already shown that if you go all the way from Fort William in the Scottish Highlands to London, well, it's actually the car that waits for you, not the other way around. But can we finally take on the red and the black weekends in France and make it south without the stress? So that's what we're looking at. Now, France has one of Europe's best EV networks, but during peak travel, especially along north to south holiday routes, stations can get quite busy. At the same time, there's now way more stations than there was before, and they've got plenty of chargers. So before embarking on this long journey, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna build a quick tool that checks EV charger availability every 10 minutes or so, using live data from 15 key stations, your Ionity, Total Energies, Electra and more. And we are gonna be looking at the stretch I'm likely to be doing from Calais to the south of France. Okay, enough chit chat. Let's take a look at the data. So we've got the data feed over here, and then we've got a custom-made visualization tool for each day. I've got my various stations over here, so I can move across the stations. Now, for instance, if I look at this Ionity Champfleury, what this is doing is it's polling the information every 8 minutes, 6 minutes, something like that. And it's showing on this that out of the 20 charger slots that are available, well, here, about 10 of them are in use, or 9 of them are in use. So that's the red. Red is used, green is available. So you can see that on Saturday, 21st of June 2025, there was no point in time where there was any issue whatsoever finding a free charger slot on Ionity Champfleury. You can check here on the map where that station is, and Champfleury is Reims. So we can scroll through the various stations. So again, in Reims, there is a Total Energy. You can see kind of same thing, which is the max used is about 50%. And we go south progressively. So this is the Shell one. It's a bit odd that 4 of the chargers always seem in use. This kind of points to maybe they're not even activated or something like that. Now I'm going south still. Now we've got the NG Vianeo, right? NG, and they've got 10 chargers altogether, but you can see at some point, just for a few minutes before noon on that day, at that time it was too much in use, there was just no more slot available. So there might have been a few minutes of wait on that day at that precise time. Okay, so let's carry on. Now we've got NG, another NG, no problem on that day. And Electrabone, which is another interesting brand, that one not always on the motorways, but hopefully not too far. Often there are the hotels. Now Ionity Jura is one I have done a couple of times before in both directions. Of course, it's a bit of a problem. You've got to serve cars going north and cars going south, so twice as many. And you can see here it gets a little bit tight on that day. Now let's carry on. We've got Ionity Lyonnais, which is kind of Lyon. You can see it here on the map. Just 4 charges, really, near Lyon in this day and age. Okay, we'll carry on. Then we've got a power dot, and that's quite interesting because power dot L'Île d'Abo, which is at the same place as the next one, which is Ionity. Very much, it's probably 500 meters away. So one is by the supermarket, and this one is just right on the motorway. Well, you can see this one gets used. Not too bad on that day. You could have charged at any time without queuing whatsoever. But clearly the other one had a lot more availability and of course a lot more slots altogether. Now, if we carry on, then you get more Ionity. The more you get into, we're now, I think, pretty much in the Alps. You're in Châteauneuf, only 4 charges, not very many, but on that day, it doesn't seem to matter too much. But of course, all of that is kind of before everyone has gone on vacation, so it's not really telling me all the things I really need to know. At least you understand how this visualization tool works and what it gives us. Now I can toggle this all stations view, which is a slightly different approach. Now I've got all the charges on the way over here, and that's from north to south. And now I'm just doing a heat map as a function of time in the day. And I'm just plotting whether I've got 3 slots in green, 2 slots in yellow, 1 slot in orange, or 0 slot available. If I don't have data, and that happens, I'll just go for the white. You can see that at that point in time, I wasn't recording anything in the night, and that's fine. But really what that picture shows that in the round, pretty much everything was more than fine. There's a couple of, there's a bit of yellow here, but that's on a 4 charger station. Clearly the Ionity Jura, as we had seen, was quite tense. So that's not really one you would want to use very much. You would try to avoid that one. And then you can do something else, which is just do the Ionity toggle. And we're going to come back to that because that tells us whether we should be using an Ionity subscription. In other words, you are incentivized to go to the Ionities, or whether you should take all the rest. Now, all the rest, you can see that it's pretty much all green. There are a couple of exceptions again, but even if you are at yellow is 2 slots available. That probably means that you've got 0 weight whatsoever. Okay, so clearly green, and that's on that day. I'm going to go back to the all station view, and we are just going to go through all the days, and you can see that of course by Saturday the 12th of July you would expect this picture to be quite a bit more red and amber, because of course then you're in one of the so-called red weekends. It's a red Saturday, and therefore you would expect to have a lot of usage. So let's see about that. Well, first thing is good news. I've changed a little bit the polling so that I do get the night numbers as well, and you can see that at night that was not a problem. But of course during the day, Ionity Jura is really not something you would want to play around with. Same for the one by Lyon, which is Ionity Lyonnais, not very good. And again, we're going to do the toggle thing here, which is if you had the subscription for Ionity, well, this is pretty tense, right? So Champfleury, which is 20 chargers, not a problem whatsoever at any point of time during the day. In fact, we can take a look at how much was available, and that's the Champfleury. You can see it gets quite deep, but you still have 4 or 5 stations available at any point in time. You can see they get busy, but that absorbs all that traffic very neatly. And let's remember that Champfleury used to be a 6-slot station before. So you can imagine how much the demand has grown and how much the scaling of the infrastructure means that there is the ability to absorb that peak traffic. So that's great. That's why on the heat map, Champfleury is a pure green over here. But of course, quite a different picture when you look at Ionity Jura, which is this one. Now, Ionity Jura, you can see it's a bit of a disaster, right? I mean, technically, it says that you still have a slot available for, most of the time, but it's a little bit more risky, right? So if you can avoid that one, and the one that's not so far, which is the Plateau de Langres, the one that was causing me an issue 2 years ago. Well, sadly, I couldn't get any information on that one, so that's why you don't have it here. Otherwise, I would definitely have included it. Okay, so clearly the Ionity gets busy on a Saturday, red Saturday, but what about if we look at the rest? Well, that's very good over here. It's nearly a full green map. Any time of the day, you're fully green, despite the fact that, well, there must be huge amounts of traffic on the roads. Now, Engie Vianeo Châteauvillain, let's have a little look at this one. You can see that this one gets a little bit tight as well. In the main, at most time of the day until 10:30, you will get your 3 slots or more. And then after 3 p.m., it's fine. But in between, well, yeah, it gets a little bit more busy. You can see that the 2 p.m. time, not great, right? So you would probably want to find something else at that point in time in the day. The others, quite a bit different. So for instance, maybe you've looked at your planner and it said, I'm going to try to get to this one instead, because this one is absolutely fine during the day. So where does that leave us? Well, that's saying that if you are using the other stations, Engie, Total, Shell, here this looks pretty good. But if you're using Ionity as well, it gets quite a bit more tense and a little bit more random in terms of assuring that you just come in there, you charge, do whatever you've got to do, you unplug, you go. Now, that was one of the reddest days. The 12th of July was supposed to be pretty bad. But what about all the other days? So let's just go quickly in the heat map mode through everything. Okay, so the Friday, which was also a very busy day supposedly, well, you can see a very similar picture. So clearly Friday, a busy day. Thursday was fine, but the Ionities get a little bit of pressure. Now that one, Ionity Lille d'Albo is doing pretty badly on that Tuesday, and that's just a Tuesday. Bizarrely, Monday was the cleanest of them all, right? Super clean heat map over here, all green. The Sunday, 6th of July, for some reason I didn't record until noon, but the rest was pretty clean. Again, Châteauvillain, a bit of red at that point in time. Saturday, 5th of July, which I believe was one of those periods of time when a lot of people were traveling, everyone is now on vacation. And you can see actually during the day, it's more than fine. But funnily enough, some people seem to be traveling at night. That could well be, the Dutch, the Belgians, they're coming from, or in fact, some friends further north, if you will. They might be traveling at night when it's cool. And when hopefully there's fewer people, well, not quite at Ionity Jura, which is still pretty busy there. Friday the 4th of July, again, that one was very good. Okay, Electra Bone for some reason got very busy suddenly, but the rest was very clean. Thursday 3rd of July, again, pretty good because, yellow is 2 slots. I would take my chances on a 2 slot. And then we carry on back into Wednesday, the 2nd of July. Again, pretty okay outside Ionity Mione, but that's just 4 charges. Tuesday, the 1st of July, super clean. Monday, the 30th, very good, apart from this Ionity Freni, where there probably are fewer choices when you're down in the mountains. Now you're on a Sunday, 29th, and this gets quite busy again on Ionity. You've got, again, the Saturday, another theme. Ionity Jura is one you would definitely avoid if you can, right? At this stage, yes, again, your car may be giving you the information about what's available, what's not, but clearly here you can see how Ionity Jura is going to be too crowded. They really need to double the stations there. I think that's what this is saying. Right, and then Friday 27th, and now I'm not so sure everyone is on vacation just yet, but you can see it's Ionity Barral, which is probably more where you know, again, folks coming from other countries are going to be using that one. It used to be a 2 chargers, now it's 4. It's still not a lot, right? But yeah, in the main, it's actually doing much better than I would have thought, because I would have expected many more days where this particular station would be under pressure. And then if you travel during the week here, yeah, not a problem whatsoever. Okay. Yeah, the Sunday, the 22nd of June, again, you could start to see the pressure on the Ionity Jura, and the rest was fine. Now let's do one more time the toggle thing. That's the real test for your subscription, right? So you could be traveling any of those days in July, right? You want to know whether you can go at peak hours with the Ionity, and well, that's very busy. Yeah, that's not the, okay, on a Tuesday, okay, if you're going to travel on a Tuesday, fine. You know, on a Wednesday, fine. On a Thursday, more than fine. On a Friday, mostly fine across all of them. On a Saturday, well, this one is suffering again, the Ionity Jura, as we've said many times now, Ionity Mionnet, but who wants to go to a 4 station? Now, I know I'm silly enough to have gone to a 2 charger station on our previous trip, coming back from Normandy and Brittany, but, you know, people are less foolish than that if they are trying to avoid any queuing, yeah? Okay, so same picture here on that Sunday. I think you get the gist by now, which is essentially if you want to get that 33 cents of euros, because Ionity has this great subscription, you know, you only need to pay for 1 month. You're going to be using it just for that period of time. You want the cheapest on the motorway. Well, actually you can, because most of the time it's going to be okay. But if you're really traveling at the peak hours, on the peak days, well, again, you know, Saturday 5th of July was supposed to be a peak hour, peak day. Is it that bad? Actually, it's okay. Even the Ionity Jura is doing all right. I think it's definitely worth getting that feed of information in your car if you have it, or check ABRP, or check anything else, because it seems that the conditions vary massively. You know, who would know why the Tuesday, the 8th of July was such a horrible day at L'Île d'Abo, for instance? Well, maybe something went wrong. That's quite possible. But apart from that, you know, in the main, you could probably get away with it, but that means that you really want to save that 20 cents. I will not give you the answer in terms of what I'm going to do, whether I take again that Ionity subscription or not. But one thing is quite obvious now, which is there is so much choice available when it comes to chargers in France that actually you really want to toggle that. Let's not use Ionity to be on the safe side. If you've got a card like an Electroverse card, a Charge My Hyundai, you've got the Mobilize, I think it's called for Renault, you've got, you know, everyone has their own card, and they will not give you the cheapest price, but then you get access to all that green, right? If you don't want to make your life too difficult, just make sure you go for the big ones, the ones that have the 8s, the 10s, the 12s, the 18. I've been a big fan of Ionity. I've used it a lot with the Ioniq 28. It's been great because it was fantastic prices, but sadly, it doesn't seem to be quite up to the standards these days compared to this, you know, sea of green, if such a thing exists, because, you know, your best bet is going to be to take those big stations that have loads of availability and, well, they're not necessarily on an Ionity subscription. Now, that's just a partial picture, obviously, but I think you get the gist now. You get 15 stations on a super popular route from north to south, you know, going to the Alps, going to Nice and Marseille. Some people will carry on to Spain from here. So that gives you a good sense of one of those axes that are super busy, because the reality, I think, is that you are most likely to be stuck in traffic much more than you are going to be stuck at charging. That's my guess looking at this map. Now, of course, I'd like to hear from you what you make of that, whether you think that's good enough, whether you only go on vacation if you see that the whole thing is pure green. Do you actually prefer to spend that bit more and be safe and avoid the queuing because you've got the kids at the back? Or, you know, it's all about being a bit more relaxed with an electric car? Let me know all of that in the comments. For now, I hope you found that useful. I can do that again, probably, if you're interested for the rest of the summer. And of course, we're going to put this to the real test. We're going to travel this summer kind of along those lines. And, well, we can see whether those bets paid off. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you soon. Goodbye.